What is up, rockers of the Rock Nation? This is your fellow rocker here, Rockerman X, and I am right now here with my Walking Dead review for the week until obviously the season ends, whenever that may or may not be, but I'm still going to do it regardless. But I am here with The Walking Dead Season 6, and if I remember right, it's Episode 11, not Untie. And this episode, before I even say anything, obviously the obvious spoiler alert, but you guys should know that by the title by now. But also, I keep looking over to watch Fear the Walking Dead, because I guess the new season comes later, but it's in recapping it all, but I don't know. But yeah. Yeah, before I say anything else specifically, again, this episode was a lot more, I don't want to say a lot more tame, but compared to what we're used to, it was a tame episode. Not saying it wasn't enjoyable, because obviously it was enjoyable. Before anyone asks what the fuck's up with this, yes, I'm sitting on my bed again because I'm too lazy to get fucking up, because I was watching a video and I figured why not go ahead and record this before the night's end and upload it, or before Comic Book Man comes on, because we all know I like my Comic Book Man. But seriously though, this episode was just so weird to me in so many different ways. But at the same time, it was still a good episode just to sit back and enjoy as a fan of the show. Because, I don't know. Because in the midst of the shit that was going on with Jesus and the Hilltop community and all this, and of course Abraham, obviously, it was just like the Abraham's relationships are in the mix, you know. I kind of want to say part of Daryl relationships might have been there, because with Denise, so I'll get more on that in a second, you know. You had Abraham with the line, when you're mixing pouring the bisquick. when you poured the bisquick, you're trying to make pancakes. Something like that, I win. I'm sorry, it was hilarious. I don't know, I still laugh at that, because fucking Abraham's Abraham. Gotta love the dude. Well, not really love to do, but still. But with that, you know, you had Glenn and Maggie and their child in hand, or possible child, I should say, because, well, or, I don't know, unborn child, there you go. And you had this other stuff that went on, like Rick and Michonne and stuff like that, and it was an enjoyable episode. But overall, though, starting with the opening scenes for Knots Untie, and I really, really say it to this day, Abraham has a fucked up love triangle. Because you have Abraham and Sasha, you know, and it's just weird because, I'm not saying it's weird because they have been spending a lot of time together, and, you know, obviously Abraham probably has developed some feelings for her. But, here's my question, though. With Eugene starting to take her patrol shift with Abraham, does Sasha purposely take a new shift to try to get away from Abraham because she's having the same feelings she is for him as she did for Bob? I'm just thinking here. Let me think about this for a second. And then, are they both starting to feel for each other, And then you have him still being with Rosita, and he literally seems to be contemplating what to do between both of them, and it's just, with him contemplating between both of them, you have Rosita give him this gift made out of a brake light, and, from the tanker, I think. I don't know. But whatever. And, I don't know, it just and then with him going around asking these questions, to, obviously, Glenn about when you're pouring the biscuit, when you're trying to make pancakes. I think this show has ruined so much in the good sense. First, you got Look at the Flowers from Carol, which I still want to know what's up with Carol. Why they haven't. Well, it's weird how these episodes haven't really had much Carol in it, which I guess makes sense. But it's like flowers, cookies, casseroles, and now pancakes are ruined. God damn it. I'm sorry, because I'm laughing at that. Oh, it just fucked up. But, yeah. Asking questions towards Glenn and Maggie, and then whoever else, And then with what the one, and speaking of, and what the one guy says when Abraham was choking him, that he saw his wife flash before his eyes, like he was going to die, and there she was. And I wonder something, when this whole fight breaks down between the Hilltop or Ethan, which I think that's his name, the few members of the Hilltop community that had to deal with Negan, and then with Rick's group, and Rick kills the guy, but yet Abraham's down there getting choked. I wonder if he purposely got himself in that position to get choked. See if the guy said, because when he was being choked, he obviously chose who he wanted to be with. And there was a sign to that. What was the sign? He got up, the necklace made from the brake light was still laying on the ground. He obviously chose Sasha. And that leaves some good points. He chose Sasha. Will Sasha reciprocate his feelings? Or even if she doesn't, or he never tells her, and if Abraham does break up with Rosita, which he obviously will eventually, how does she feel? I feel like she's going to be between furious and heartbroken, not really relieved. She's going to be between furious and heartbroken. Why? Because any woman, or not, I would say any woman, but majority of women are either heartbroken or furious, or somewhere in between. Almost never relieved. At least from how I see it. And don't call me sexy for saying that, but you guys don't see this pillow. God damn it. I was trying to kill someone on the wall. Give me a second. There. Okay, it's off. It's dead now. Sorry, I gotta set it on my lap right now, too. But, stuff like that. And just, speaking of relationship stuff, this is another thing I want to say. Everyone sees Jesus and he enters Rick's home, and I still want to know something. And I still want to say something here. Everyone sees Jesus. I honestly am starting to wonder something here. And they says on Talking Dead that he's just a normal man that knows what he's doing. That Jesus is just a name, but is he really Jesus? I still want to know this. Is he still really Jesus? Because I'm sorry, he acts just like the guy. Literally. Or he acts just how you would assume he would. It's just funny. He has that... He really does have that mystical sense about him. It really is. That whole Jesus factor. Long hair, beard. He acts how you would expect the real Jesus would. Shot in a few situations. Vouch for guys who... stuff like that. And I'm not saying that because, I'm not really religious. But it's kind of true. Maybe that's why they call him Jesus, who knows, but still. But the fact, though, when he enters Rick's home, and everyone sees him, and then the fucked up part is, fucking Carl pulls out the gun on him, like right here, freaking everyone else is doing whatever, everyone else comes in after him, and they just... And they just give Michonne and Rick that stare, like, blinking between each other's, like, yep, something happened. It's just fucked up. But, it's just funny as hell. I don't know. I just find that funny. Granted, I think everyone's happy that Rick and Michonne finally got together in a sense. And for the record, you don't fuck with Rick when Michonne's around. Just saying. But, that's obvious. But, yeah. After the whole, everyone sits down and talks with Jesus. You find out from Jesus, he's from another group, aka the Hilltop Settlement group, whatever you want to call him. That his job is to go out and find other groups and trade with them. And, you have him, you have his group, you have the Alexandrian group, you have Negan, aka the Saviors, and which is kind of a fucked up name for calling them the Saviors, but I have a weird feeling of who the Saviors could be, and based off of like Talking Dead for them giving exclusive interviews. But anyway, the point of it is though, Jesus That's the fucked up part is I keep saying Jesus and it's fucking with my head. But he comes to this line: "Your world's about to get a whole lot bigger," and makes me question is, you know, with the saviors, possibly them killing him, going in, stuff like that. We get more on that later, What's this actually mean? Are there more groups out there than just the three, or what? That's not my question. But, yeah, throughout this episode, I don't know. Again, there's nothing really to talk about this episode. But enough about that, too. You got Denise and Daryl getting all buddy-buddy, which I guess isn't surprising. But, And Carl, he obviously took Rick and Michonne together surprisingly well. Which, I'm just saying, Carl doesn't need two eyes to see that. Why? Because he knows what's up to, and as any guy, I guess he understands, Though he does decide to stay back. Or he does decide to stay back with Judith and help try to keep Alexandria safe what they can for the people that's not there, Or, yeah. But, yeah. And now moving on to talking about the rest of the Hilltop group, settlement group. Not fully trusting Jesus, and that's Rick's group, but at the end they similarly do. But, again, and this is just from my thing, speaking of, it is completely understandable why not to trust Jesus, god damn it. But, should I trust him or should I not trust him, In a way, from this episode specifically, I feel like I should trust Jesus if I was in Rick's group. I would probably trust him. Only because compared to the rest of the Hilltop settlement, they all seem like dicks. I'm not gonna lie. They all seem like motherfucking assholes. Granted, they may be self-sufficient, but they all seem dickish in a way. But as for Jesus, again, he acts that way as you expect Jesus. I'm keep doing this, but I'm not even looking at the camera. But expect as the way Jesus would react. I don't know. That's kind of why I feel like I would trust him in a sense. Because, he, despite what he did in the first time you would meet him, where he was trying to steal the truck, stuff like that, but obviously when he saw the two, he thought they were bad guys. But then as he got out and Alexandria watched, he knew, hey, these aren't bad guys after all. They're semi like them. But as for him in the Hilltop settlement, despite everyone else being like dicks, I don't get to one dick in specific, they seem, granted, despite they ran out of ammo and shit, their settlement seems different, Non-traditional weapons, spears, made their own knives, swords for that matter, maybe, which I doubt it, but you get my point, They're more, and they actually farm, stuff like that. I will say this, which isn't a bad thing. But when the saviors come in like that and do pull the shit they did, fuck all. But, Now, as for Gregory in this Hilltop settlement community, he seems, I don't know. He seems like one of those guys, let's say, from the old world, I guess you could say. I don't want to say a slave from that era, from like the slave 1860s era, from like the slave era, stuff like that. He just seems like one of those guys that's like the old school gentleman that says, oh, women should be in a certain place. Everyone, he just seems like a real big douchebag. And from the first time Maggie, or as he calls her, Natalie, they have that talk, but Matt, stuff like that. And he seemed like a complete dick. And in the second talk, he still seemed like a fucking douchebag. Even Jesus apologized ahead of time. I'm sorry about Gregory. He can seem like a dick, or how he said, or he didn't say douche. I said prick. I don't know, but whatever. But this second thought proves Maggie can really hold her fucking weight. And it's probably the reason why, she's a pregnant woman. I'm sorry. You don't fuck with a pregnant woman. It's kind of fucked up, but you don't, And he, God damn, I keep wanting to watch Fear. And something over there, but god damn it, it's funny. Because she basically grabs Gregory by his balls. But, anyway. Yeah. Maggie basically grabs him by his balls and say, "We will not help you take care of the saviors unless you give us half of everything you own." So it's like, God fucking damn it. And even though, and speaking of too, though, and this even proves too why that the Alexandrians aren't the only one who have to worry about Negan. Especially, again, because that fight that breaks down between Ron and Rick kills Ethan and all that shit, and AOG's breaking, whatever. But, there's really all I gotta say about this episode, except for, the whole Maggie and Glenn baby situation. It's just funny. Because as Lauren, I think that's her name, right? Plays after Maggie. Well, as they said on Talking Dead, they won't go, pull anything risky unless they feel like they have something to protect. And I guess with Maggie's baby, no, it needs, or unborn child, Maggie's unborn child needs protection. And Alexandria, of course, it's just kind of a metaphor there, really, I feel like it. But just a heartwarming moment between everybody looking at the sonogram, too. From the doctor, after they saved the doctor, stuff like that, they got the doctor's help from the Hilltop Settlement, they got those because, I really did enjoy this episode. Just from the seriousness and just from some of the lightheartedness that happened, it was a good episode. And then Jesus, again, how I kind of wish I was skinnier and I was able to apply for a role, because I'm sorry, I got the real deal here. I've been called Fat Jesus before, so, I really do wish I was able to get the role of Jesus. I really do. That would be nice to actually have, but it'll never happen. I know. I'll never be on national TV for anyone. But, if I was skinnier and I had weight, I would be, but hey, what can I say? But it would have been nice to be able to try to get that role. Because I wouldn't mind it. But, yeah. But, yeah, if I had to rate this episode, I'd give it probably definitely about an 8 or 9 out of 10 stars. But that's how I feel about it. Some of you guys might feel different. But overall, this episode was very, again, for a lighthearted, tame episode, is very enjoyable. That's really all I gotta say. But, yeah. Until next time, guys, live free and rock.